And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for like probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say it
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island, and today we're going to be talking Big Ten win totals. We've already done Big 12, we've done SEC, we've got Big Ten Media Days this week, so we're going to be sharing what we think each of these teams, every single team in the conference, if they can hit the over or the under for their projected win totals, presented by Bet Online. We're also going to get to a couple other dumb conversation points, some banger stories we've been getting from Sean over here. Part of the big reason why we moved in together, so that Sean can share the stupidity. I also have a horrible pitch for you later, but worse than the Run Club. It's worse than the Run Club. I'm telling you right now.
That's hard to be worse than the Run Club, man.
We're gonna find out. I think it's a good idea. You're not gonna like the idea. Before we get to you sharing the read from Bet Online, where everyone can place bets on these win totals, folks, make sure you follow us on Twitter at HackCityPod. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a comment below. What is your favorite bet for the Big Ten win totals? Let us know in the comments. Sean, Bet Online, let us know.
Well, I've found myself lately to find success only at sniping lines, which you can do at Bet Online, obviously. And I was trying to snipe a line on the Golf Open, but that was starting getting a little tight. So I decided, let's just move it to baseball, set a little afternoon 3-leg parlay. Hopefully by the end of this show.
Castellanos?
I did not. I thought about it. I think there might have been too much action. I think the public was riding too much on Castellanos' homer that I had given a major
decommitment. He entered the transfer portal.
Oh, what are they? 6 runs? Oh, there might be a shot here.
What is this? Google.
Get to the stats. Go down. Oh, all right. What? Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your #1 source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet up to $250.
He hit a home run.
You're kidding.
How is this not on Twitter? Wait. He hit a home run.
You're kidding.
Wait, I need to spell his name right.
Well, if there's another major crucial point in American society, good or bad, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, maybe take a Nick Castellanos homer day of at Bet Online. That's what you should be doing. And if say the Supreme Sorry. Let's say the Supreme Court knocks the judges from 9 to 5, then bet on Castellanos 2 homers at Bet Online. You can get a 50% free bet up to $250 on your first deposit bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online, the game starts here.
Sorry, I have to tweet that. That is so goddamn funny. That is so goddamn funny. He is the...
It's unbelievable.
I would really love, if I was a full-time journalist, or like just full-time writer, whatever.
Yeah.
That would be a really fun piece to do during the football offseason. To go and pull up every time he's hit a home run and see if you, or the inverse of that is, how many times there's been something serious that has happened that he has a success rate. It's got to be in the 70s. Like, he has to be at 70%.
I'm intrigued to know if he's trying to do it at this point, because every golfer can hit a stinger, but they're not hitting a stinger on every shot. I think Castellanos is good. He's an MLB player that has hit a bunch of home runs before. I think if there's a big day and he knows that the internet's rooting for him to have another Nick Castellanos moment, he's really swinging that bat. That's unbelievable yet again. Oh,
well, maybe you can hit some home runs with these win totals that we're going to be going through. We're going to rip through these quickly as we always do. I'm going to start us off, Sean, with a team that I always support. I don't know why they were at the top of the list on Bet Online. I think it's because we're in New Jersey and it recognized my location. But Rutgers, their line is at 6. I got to tell you right now, man, there's a lot of Big Ten lines for some mediocre teams that were very, very favorable. This is going to be a big over show. And I'm telling you right now, Rutgers is one that I want to go with the over. As I always do, I want to share some of the games on their schedule. I think that Virginia Tech's going to be a tough game for them. Washington's going to be a tough game for them. Wisconsin's not going to be really winnable. USC, there's going to be just a little bit too much offensive juice for them to keep up with. Maryland is hit or miss. And I think Nebraska is 50-50 as well. They avoid Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. Now, those teams that I just laid out for you, those are all winnable games for them for the most part, except maybe USC. We're talking about 6 wins. 6. I just listed 6 teams that are the tough games on their schedule. We're big Kyle and Ungai fans. They were good last year. They've been trending in the upward direction. I don't know, dude. I'm taking the over on this one. This one feels pretty good.
I'm taking the under. The Virginia Tech game scares me, and their away games are horrific. They needed better games that were going to be close ones at home. Maryland,
they were over 500 last year. And you're telling me that they're going to, with an easier schedule, that they're going to go under 500.
I like that they added Demir Miller. Like the Rutgers, I'm rooting for them, but betting wise, a lot of these teams and bets that I'm saying that it's not going to surprise me if they get 6 wins, 7 wins. But for a strictly betting standpoint, my brain's likelihood of them getting 6, 7 wins, it doesn't work out. I'm taking the under on Rutgers.
You just always have to choose a way to insult me. That's what this is. You always try to find a way to insult me. And that's what you're doing right here.
I'm not trying to.
That wasn't logic. You didn't give me a take.
I'm not trying to. They're away at Maryland. They're away at Nebraska. They're away at USC. That's brutal. Those are toss-up games for Rutgers that if they were home, I may have had Rutgers at the over. You have to fly to Nebraska, fly to USC. I don't like it. And maybe I'm a little higher on Maryland this year than I should be. So maybe I'm giving them a little bump. But you want to make ration and logic out of the mush middle of the Big Ten? Going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult.
I would argue that they're at the top of that middle.
That's why they're at 6. If they were at 5.5, I'd take that. But they're at 6.
You stink. Illinois 5.5. They got brutalized with their schedule. They're one of these teams. There's a couple of teams that got really tough schedules. The Fighting Illini. They take on Kansas in the beginning of the season. They go to Nebraska, at Penn State versus Michigan, at Oregon, at Rutgers, at Northwestern. Those last 2 games, coin flip games for a team like Illinois, but having to go on the road, especially to Northwestern, playing on that lakefront stadium that they're playing in the meantime while their stadium is under construction, you're not going to be able to throw the ball. You better hope you can run the damn ball. I'm taking the under here. That just 5.5 just feels like a sitting duck number. Their roster has regressed a little bit over time over the past couple of years since Walters left to take the Purdue job. I'm high on Purdue, which we'll get to later, but I do not feel good about that 5.5 number, nor do I feel good about the schedule that Illinois was given for this upcoming season.
Illinois should have a quick 2 against Eastern Illinois and Central Michigan, but then here's how my brain's working. I got to pick 4 wins between these 5 teams here. Kansas, Nebraska, Rutgers, Northwestern, Michigan State. There's some doormats in there, but that's too tight for me to take the over. I'm taking the under on Illinois also. It's going to be too messy for them.
Yeah, there's a couple on here that are going to be like within a game like we've had on the last 2. This one's not one I'm running to the book for, but it just doesn't feel great. Indiana, 5.5. Another team that, look, we're big fans of Cignetti and what we think he's going to do in the upcoming future. He's a team builder. It wasn't an immediate click with Elon. When we played him when he was at Elon, we played him when he was at JMU. He took over an already behemoth level JMU team.
Yeah.
It's going to take a little bit of time before Indiana gets where they're going. Versus Maryland, at Northwestern, versus Nebraska, versus Washington, at Michigan State, versus Michigan, at Ohio State are the games that I kind of tagged as either unwinnable or tough to play in. I'm taking the under. I think they're going to be like a 5-7, 4-8 team.
I hate that they have to close with Michigan and Ohio State. If you're a bettor, you're sitting here like, oh, this is going to be kicked at week 10. And because they're not going to beat Michigan. They're not going to beat Ohio State. Even under a juiced up Kurt Cignetti and Curtis Rourke coming in, and they're going to have, they're trying.
Forgot they have Curtis Rourke.
They're trying to build and they're trying to roll, but it's not the year for Indiana. The under is the play here. There's just too much in their way.
Iowa. So Iowa is always going to fit the description of a team that you watch them play, you never really watch them and think, oh, this is a 9-win football team. But they're always going to scrap out some football games, as we know. They're bringing back a lot defensively. Like most of their important defensive linemen, linebackers, secondary players, It's a really, really strong defense coming back, which was already one of the best in the country last year. Offensively, an enigma. I'm not even going to try to project. I'm not even going to pretend to sit here and try to project. But Cade McNamara, expected to be back.
Yeah.
Don't know what the backup situation is because he's been a little bit injury prone. Dude, I only tagged 2 games that scared me. They have a really easy schedule. Ohio State, they go to Ohio State. They're not winning that one.
Nope.
Versus Wisconsin's a coin flipper. 7.5's the line. Give me the over. That is a home run bet right there. Who set this line?
I'm smashing the over also. I had Washington as my other iffy one for Iowa instead of Wisconsin, even though Wisconsin could be tough for them. 7.5, clear it easy for Iowa. I think it's actually a disrespectful line for the Hawkeyes, who they win games. They win football games. They do it in ugly ways, and they don't have offense really. They're boring, but they win football games, and they're going to win 8 games at least this season.
Maryland's another one of those teams that when they don't play the top teams in the Big Ten and they don't have any challenges on their schedule, like you sometimes get this feeling, maybe they're the inverse of Iowa, where you get this feeling that, hey, this team actually might be better than we think that they are, and then they get their asses kicked when they have to play somebody competent. But they're only listed at 6.5. They, to me, are at that upper echelon of having to deal with and being able to beat up on the mid to low level Big Ten teams, but not good enough to go duke it out with the Oregons, the Penn States. But the only 3 that I really tagged that really, really scared me that I don't think they win at all, at Oregon versus Iowa and at Penn State. They avoid Michigan and Ohio State. So I feel pretty good about the over. I think there's a pretty good buffer for them there.
Here's why I like the Maryland over. They could start 6-0 this season. They open up UConn, Michigan State, UVA, Villanova, FCS, Indiana, and Northwestern. They could be 6-0, and then all they have to do...
Just hear one more.
They have to get a win. They're not going to beat Penn State at Penn State. They're not going to beat Oregon at Oregon, and they're not going to beat Iowa.
What's their first game after that six-game stretch?
Let me pull that up real quick. After Northwestern comes USC. Not great.
Okay.
It's not. That is a game that I'm not messing around with. Yeah. But the other 2 that they would have to win to clear this 6.5, they have to beat either Rutgers or Minnesota. They could do that. One of those 2, you sitting at 7, you win the Maryland bet. Everything else, though, I mean, that back half of the season, much different than the front. But I like the over for Maryland.
Michigan's listed at 8.5, which that number sounds so low for what it should be.
Yeah.
But it does make sense. This is going to be an overplay for me because they have a lukewarm middle of their schedule. They start the season against Texas, at home against Texas. They could pull out that game, but I'm going to, just for the sake of new young quarterback and Alex Orji, it's going to take a little bit of time to really figure out their rhythm. I think they're probably going to lose a close game, a close defensive battle against Texas versus Oregon. We know that Oregon's an elite program. We're going to get to them in a second. And then I think that Ohio State is going to steal this one back this year. But those are the only 3 games. And they're a team that is so dominant defensively. There is such a massive talent gap between them and the rest of their schedule. I don't see a way that they don't go 9-3.
8.5 feels it feels tragic for the reigning national champions. But reigning national champions, you have to have a lot of good seniors and a lot of departures. The defense is still great. And then, like you said, there's 3 games, and then the 4th, that's the real kicker, is Washington for me. I think they beat Washington, and that puts them at 9, and then everyone's happy winning the over bet here moving forward. And then the other 3 we could just enjoy. We could just say, all right, if they get one there, then that's a little bonus round. But I think they get 9. Michigan has proven that they're deep and they're loaded, and I like Sharon Moore also. So I think that them getting 9 wins will help, I guess, keep the standard that Harbaugh set over the last couple years. I think the last thing that coaching staff wants to do is fall off completely after the big man left.
So here's where there's this middle grouping of teams. There's a couple in here that we're going to get to soon that have really low projected win totals, and there's not much of a threshold of competition for them to hit it. So Michigan State's got a little bit of Vanderbilt syndrome here, where they're only at 4.5. They go to Maryland. They play at home against Ohio State, at Oregon, versus Iowa, at Michigan, versus Rutgers, versus Purdue. I don't see a way, or I totally see a way that they find a way to scrap out 5 wins. It's a well-coached team. I think that Childs, a quarterback, could end up providing them some juice. There's some underrated players on that roster that were highly recruited, that were undercoached, that were not developed as much as they could have been. They kept some decent players. I think that there's a shot here. This is one of the ones I will say I wouldn't touch this one. I'm not betting on Michigan State because I don't think this could go either way. I don't feel confident about this, but I think that this could be a Jonathan Smith team that is very sneaky good. Sneaky good's not the right word. It's a
sneaky competent?
Yeah, competent enough to scrap it out against the crappy teams on their schedule.
I have Michigan State as the under. They've been in the basement of the Big Ten. They've been drama-filled, scandal-filled, transfer out. Everything that has gone wrong for Michigan State went wrong over the last couple years. Big Aiden Childs guy, and I like Jonathan Smith, and I really liked what he did in Oregon State, but he's a slow burner. His first 3 years at Oregon State, he had 9 wins. He didn't. It wasn't like he was coming in and ripping off 7, 8, 6. No,
yeah,
he had
the roster
9.
he inherited at. I know that this Michigan State team, there were some guys that left in the portal, but there's some underrated cats on that team that are like young freshmen that were highly recruited, that are some good players, and he brings in Childs, who they're going to probably get smoked by that stretch of teams that I just mentioned there. But you're telling me that they can't eke one out against some of the weaker teams on their schedule? That's where
they're the weakest team on the schedule. They are. They're too.
I think Indiana and Minnesota are much weaker.
I don't know about that. They have FAU. You're not a prospect. All right, they have FAU and Prairie View A&M. That's their 2
wins.
Yeah, that's their 2. I don't think they get 3 more in the Big Ten. I don't like it. I take the under here, even though I like Jonathan Smith.
Minnesota 5.5 is a team that I'm going to be really low on this year. They take on UNC at home. Iowa at home, at Michigan, versus USC, versus Maryland, versus Rutgers, versus Penn State, versus Wisconsin. That 5.5 number, again, another situation where I don't love it, so I don't know if I'd actually really bet on this one, but if I had to make a pick, I feel as though that they're going to be a 5-7 team this upcoming year. They have been a slowly regressing football program, which is disappointing because I think so many people were hoping that PJ Fleck could be this next great head coach that transforms Minnesota and then goes on to another destination after he left Western Michigan. But I don't know if that's in their cards. I don't think that they've got like a ton of dudes. Their team's okay. 5 wins is probably more realistic on their range.
I would say so. I have the under here also. It's a really unfavorable home and aways against the mush, the middle of the Big Ten. They're at UCLA. They're at Rutgers. They're at Illinois. It's just not. It's not good for them. That is not. If they had more home games against the beatable teams, maybe we pushed it on the over, but it's not enough for me to say they get 6 wins. Minnesota 5 wins, reasonable for me.
Nebraska set at 7.5.
Good joke.
They take on Colorado, which, I mean, there's actually a possibility for them to win because they're taking them on at home. They might be holding a bit of a vendetta after what happened last year where their fans rushed the field. At Ohio State, at USC, versus Wisconsin, at Iowa. 7.5 sounds just a little too high. Like, I feel like if they improve, they're going to be a 7-5 football team, which is an accomplishment. It's just like the same thing that we've said with Colorado. You win 7 games this upcoming year, you have improved. I just feel as though Dylan Raiola is going to be great in a couple of years, but for him, in year 1 as a true freshman, there's going to be some situations that he's just not going to be able to overcome.
You point me in the direction of someone who confidently bets on Nebraska getting 8 wins this year, and I'll point you to a crazy person. That's just the simple fact of the matter. Call the number. It's not call the number because you're in trouble and gambling too often. Call the number because you're just throwing your money away. That is the number call.
They should have and this will never happen, they should have a separate hotline for... Just like you, if you're on the fence on a bet, you call and be like, "Hey, should I do this or not?" And they're just going to be straight up, be like, "No, you're a dumbass. Don't place that bet on Nebraska to get 8 wins. Are you serious?"
That's
just to talk you out of it. That's a good idea. That should be a business model. It shouldn't be
Pharrell on the bench did it for years.
Wait, say that again?
Pharrell on the bench did that for years. Plenty. Yeah, they were talking gambling all the time back then. It's just not the right call. It's not the play. The Colorado game is harsh because you're not only battling it out with teams that are definitely better than you in the Big Ten, but now you have a Big 12 team that's really trying to make something out of themselves this year, beating Nebraska twice in a row. They want to do that. Colorado wants to get this win over Nebraska, I think, more than Nebraska wants it. So the under is the only play here for the Cornhuskers.
I just wrote that down, by the way. I think that might end up being a in-season segment. I think that if we can figure out the voicemail situation, which you've told me is very easy to do, I think a good segment could be people call and leave us a voicemail and pitch us on a really dumb bet that they think is going to hit. I think we should... we should do that.
I think so.
Northwestern, 4.5, which, man, they were a pretty damn good team last year. They performed way better than everyone thought that they were. What do we do? 4.5? This is so disrespectful. At Washington, at Maryland, versus Wisconsin, at Iowa, versus Ohio State, at Michigan. They have a brutal schedule. But, man, you tell me that they can't go 5-7?
Look, understand this. Northwestern won 5 of their last 6 last year with David Braun. They were rolling at the end of the year. They shouldn't have more than 5 wins, but they can get 5. I'm hoping that the Magic rolls over early and then they can get to 5. They feel like the Raiders.
This is why that's a better example. It's not magic. None of this is magic for Northwestern specifically. Hear me out. All I am saying is that the reason why I see them as a 5-6 win football team is because they're just really well coached. There's no luck on their side. There's none. Except maybe for the ball spinning in the air because they're playing on a goddamn lakefront. But they're just a show-up, punch-you-in-the-mouth team. That's it. That's the same shit that Iowa's been doing for so long, that just kind of showing up, you're knocking heads every time, and they'll maybe win most of their home games.
They had ugly drama last season with their previous head coach, and they needed a new guy in there. And Braun stepped up, stood at that podium like a grown man, answered the questions, and then decided, hey, can I get back to coaching some football? I got 100 dudes that I got to lead out to this field on Saturday. And he started doing it, and they started winning games. And Northwestern, they're not going to win the Big Ten. They're not going to come in 5th in the Big Ten, but they can get 5 wins. 4.5 is just too low for them.
Ohio State, 10.5. This is going to be, them and Oregon are the most succinct analysis that you're going to get. I think they go undefeated, or at the bare minimum 11-1 in the regular season. They are a Death Star, and it is going to be a collision course. I mean, let's package these two together. Ohio State 10.5, they're going to win the Big Ten. Oregon 10.5, they're going to compete for the Big Ten championship game. They're both going to be at least 11-1. They're both the best 2 teams in the conference right now. There is no way that they go under either of them.
Yeah, Ohio State, I have overs for both of them. Both of them at least 11 wins. Ohio State, the rival up north, got weaker, and Ohio State out for blood this year. Transfer portal, they went bonkers, and they're trying to capitalize on a weak season. It's football. Your starting corner gets out, you're going to target the next guy that comes in. It's just how football works. Oregon, yeah, let's run it back, Dan Lanning. Let's go and get 11 wins in the new conference. I believe in them. I believe they beat Washington this year in the big rivalry, and that carries them over to 11 wins. So yeah, you're right. Those are my 2 most succinct also. Quick, easy, take the over.
These conferences are too goddamn big. Holy shit, we still have more teams to get to. Penn State, 9.5. At Wisconsin, at USC versus Ohio State. They're not a 10-win football team. They lost a ton of guys to the NFL draft.
Yeah.
They lost Kalen King. They lost Johnny Dixon. They lost Olu Fashanu. They lost Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
They lost their efforts to reload. They can do it effectively. Abdul Carter's a great player. Dennis Sutton's a great player. But for them to be a 10-win team, I think that as the schedule starts to get harder, it's not the same. 9 wins, totally. Give me 9 wins. But I think that there's going to be a little bit more of a bumpy path for that this year.
I have the under for Penn State. Penn State can get a healthy 8 in the Big Ten. 8 solid, strong wins that makes them look good. And Penn State wins. You know, they're rolling over the teams that they should roll over. But there's a 4-game stretch in the middle of the season that really concerns me for them. That's at USC, at Wisconsin, versus Ohio State, versus Washington. They need to lose 2 of those 4 to hit the over. Doesn't happen. I think they take the under, 9 or 8 wins this year. And, you know, they have another fine Penn State season. And if they shock me, they shock me. That's what we've been saying about this team for the last 3-4 years. When they do it, I'll eat the crow. But until they do, I'll just be sitting here, knowing what I know.
My whole problem with them is that last year was really the year that they were probably the best set up to make the playoff. That was when they had all of that early round talent, and it just didn't come to fruition. It was a little too soon for Drew Aller. Maybe he has a big year. Purdue 4.5. I'm high on this Purdue team. I think that there is a litany of underrated developing defensive players. I think that this team could be as good as what I thought Illinois was going to be last year. I think Ryan Walters was the glue that kept that Illinois team together and was the reason why they were producing premier NFL talent the way that they were. They take on this upcoming year. They go to Notre Dame, I don't know where that Notre Dame game is. They play Notre Dame versus Nebraska, at Wisconsin versus Oregon, at Ohio State versus Penn State. That 4.5, I think that they're going to be kind of like what we're talking about here with Northwestern, just really well coached. Teams are going to have a really tough time moving the ball against them, and it's going to be a 5-win season, and that's an accomplishment. That is a step forward in the right direction that they can win 5 games.
I don't like it. I like the under for Purdue. Purdue, and I know Purdue's hosting Notre Dame, by the way.
Yeah, you stink because we did the upset show, and then you're like,
I have this. Can I get to my point? All right. I said, even though I predicted a possible Purdue over Notre Dame upset, that does not factor into over under wins. It doesn't. And plus, their non-con is just Indiana State. They have to play Oregon State this year. That's no gimme. They're gonna have to.
That Oregon State team got picked apart for its like every single part that was left on that roster.
I don't have much faith in Purdue this year. It's not like they gave themselves
faith in Oregon State.
God, more than Purdue. 4.5. That tells you all I need to know. I think it's going to be a long December Counting Crows style for the Boilermakers. I think they struggle in the Big Ten this season.
Bad take. UCLA 5.5. Speaking of a team that I think that struggles, I think that they are going to be a bottom feeder. I think that this is going to be a feeling out period as they're trying to figure out what direction they're going in. They're also getting brutalized by all the travel that they have to do. At LSU versus Oregon, at Penn State, at Rutgers, at Nebraska versus Iowa, at Washington versus USC. They are cooked with this schedule and the amount of travel that they have to do. There are multiple cross-country trips to LSU, to Penn State, to Rutgers, and then a number of other ones that are pretty deep. So I think that this is a situation where it's going to be a lot for them with everything that happened in this offseason.
It's the under for me for UCLA. New coach, and they're returning only 2 starters on defense in a new conference format.
Wow.
Yeah, UCLA has a bumpy first year in the Big Ten. That's the only way I'm seeing it. I really respect them for having an LSU game in the beginning of the year. I do, but that's different than over/under win totals and betting on it. So UCLA under 5.5 is the play for me.
Apparently, BetOnline also hates USC like I do because they only got 7.5 as their win total.
Look,
I'm taking this over. I don't think that they beat LSU. I think that they're going to lose to Michigan at Michigan. I think Notre Dame's going to beat them this upcoming year, but they have a pretty reasonable schedule, man. I know that there's a lot of travel. Lincoln Riley's gifted enough as an offensive play caller that maybe things aren't working early. Maybe Miller Moss isn't as good as some people are hoping he could be. Maybe D'Anton Lynn, it takes him a little bit of time to figure out what guys can play his system at the degree that he needs them to. But they're gonna be able to win games that people are gonna be picking against them. I think an 8-win season at the bare minimum is completely on the radar.
The effort being put in for a culture change at USC, trying again at the defensive coordinator position in the defense, it does instill hope because they're not just sitting around saying, how can we fix this with a Band-Aid? No, let's get the tourniquet out. We have to start thinking of new solutions and new options. That instills hope. I don't like USC in the Big Ten. I don't think it's a conference for them. They're not.
So you think that they're going to be a 7-win team this year?
I think it's very possible they have 7 wins.
I'm higher on USC than you are.
I'm really on the fence for USC. I am. I think it's going to be some growing pains in the Big Ten for them.
Cold take machine.
They could lose 5 games because they're going to lose 3 no matter what. And then Lincoln and his dumb offense is going to choke away another game. They should have had more wins last year. They should. Caleb Williams, they still didn't do dick.
Their schedule last year was a lot harder than the one that they have this upcoming year.
And their quarterback this year is not going to be the number 1 overall draft pick.
I would argue
for this
that they're going to be
season.
more defensively balanced, though. Not defensively balanced. They're going to be overall.
That's a cold take. But you're putting stock into USC defense already?
I'm putting stock into D'Anton Lynn. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country.
I'm not going to argue you with that, but we know it doesn't all happen in one offseason, especially with a tragic defensive system.
With how goddamn bad they are, all it takes is a little bit to improve. Just a little bit to improve.
They were that bad, though, last year on defense. They were. So even a little improvement.
It's just like with Iowa. They were so goddamn bad last year, and they went to the Big Ten championship game. I had this argument with
USC
Blake.
didn't even make the Pac-12 championship game last year.
There is such little room that is required for them to improve.
I know that.
They're going up against a bunch of teams that rely on just running the football, that don't score more than 25 points per game.
Keep your finger on your table, please, and don't extend it over to my little desk.
All right,
you keep your finger away from me.
Washington 6.5. The Huskies under a new regime with Jed Fish. I think that depth is going to be an issue for them, but they still have a quality roster with a good coach. I think that this team is maybe not equal to the Arizona team that Jed Fish had last year, but not far off enough that they're going to see a significant drop-off. 6.5 feels totally doable for them to be a 7-win team. They play Michigan at home. They go to Iowa versus USC, at Penn State, at Oregon. So if they lose those games, that's only 5. Give me them as a 7. Maybe they eke out that 8th one and they have a really stellar first year under Jed Fish.
I have the over. Come on. They were just there. Even a team that was just there can muster up 7 wins the next season.
This isn't TCU.
Even if they get picked apart, they could still get that 7. The beginning of the schedule is kind of light. I think they do drop to Oregon this season also. But if they stumble and can't recapture the magic of last season, which they won't, 7 wins is doable. Plus, I think Will Rogers is a good stopgap for him.
Yeah.
And stopgap in the college is a bad term that I don't like using because it's an NFL term in my opinion. But for the current situation,
the transfer portal is making it a thing.
Yeah, it is. He will be serviceable enough for 7 wins.
Wisconsin, 6.5, last one. I think this Wisconsin team is going to be better than people think. I think that they're going to run the ball really hard. I think their offensive line, I like Jack Nelson, is going to be pretty stout. I think their D-line is really underrated. I've talked very highly of James Thompson, who I think is a really, really just physical, stellar, punch you in the mouth type of a defensive tackle. Versus Alabama, at USC, at Iowa, versus Oregon. Those are the tough games on the schedule for me that I don't think that they can win. They are the last team in the upper group of the conference. They're like that last team.
They're Tennessee. They're when the SEC split into their initial 7-7. Tennessee was that bubble.
So
I got you, but I'm saying relatively in conference though.
They're Kentucky. They could be Kentucky.
Okay. Ooh.
8 wins. I think they're going to be an 8-win team this year.
I don't know about 8. I'm taking the over for a different reason. Somebody just got me back in on a certain quarterback, and I'm going to have him roll in a bunch of Big Ten rock fights. That's Tyler Van Dyke in Wisconsin.
Oh, no, I forgot.
And I'm going to roll, and you got me back in on the Badgers.
Did I forget?
And we're doing dual Tyler Van Dyke overs this year. Like it, love it, live with it.
What do you mean dual? Like, are you going to...
We're both taking the overs on Wisconsin.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that. I'm sure you could probably make some money betting on his passing overs because they're probably going to be like 65 yards every game.
Sure, here it
stinks.
comes. I did like in your analysis, you just said they're going to run the ball and their offensive line's going to be good. You didn't even bring up the quarterbacking.
Yeah, I have no expectation that that's going to be an important part of their success.
Okay.
I will say, though, I mean, Luke Fickell made Desmond Ridder, who was dog-ass, look pretty good at Cincinnati.
He was tragic in the NFL, but he was good in college.
Tragic is a friendly way of phrasing it.
I'm trying to be nicer on Desmond now. He's not on the Falcons. I shouldn't harbor much resentment or ill will anymore.
Although, wait, that was a Mike Denbrock thing. Wasn't Denbrock? Denbrock was Desmond Ridder's offense. That's not Mike Denbrock. Hold on one second. Everyone, yeah, 2021. Oh, so it was a Denbrock thing. It wasn't a Luke Fickell thing. So never mind. I take back what I just said.
Ridder stinks. I don't take that back.
All right, so one of the reasons why I think a lot of people always ask, why the heck did we move in together? When we originally would do shows together, being around each other all the time, I think would always elevate the show. Not because we're in the same room recording the show, but because there's just more to talk about.
Yeah.
You already dropped 2 banger stories on, like, I think it was Wednesday this week, just casually. I jokingly said to you I should go poop in our apartment pool.
Right.
Just like the vile, disgusting person that I am. Total joke. Sean, you proceeded to tell me the story of a friend of yours who, as a teenage lifeguard, would take a dump in the pool while he was a lifeguard in order to end his shift early. Can you please elaborate and tell me the rest of this, or our listeners, the rest of the story?
Yeah, we'll just call this guy Gregory for the story because I don't have any Gregorys that I know or very close with. But yeah, in high school, there was a pool that we all went to, and Gregory was one of the lifeguards, and we had known him. You know, we played football, grew up. Everyone kind of grew up in the same area, and then all my friends that didn't play sports were working as lifeguards because it was an easy summer job. You know, you made a little bit of money, hung out at the pool. Pretty lax job. And some days, I guess it got hot. Or, you know, some days they just didn't really want to work that much. So around 4 o'clock...
how late did the pool stay open?
It went from, I think, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m.
9 p.m.?
Yeah. A lot of late-night water basketball games. It's
a weird time frame.
It was a good pool. It was a really fun pool.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
And also in the summer, it would have to be 11 because swim team was happening from like 7 to 10.
So was your buddy doing like a 10-hour shift? Is that kind of what it was?
I think it would be...
That's 10 hours, right? 11 to 9?
They might have done like 2 5-hour shifts between all the lifeguard rotations. He might have got in like the final one, decided, I don't want to work today. And the strategy for that would be for Gregory to get in the deep end whenever he had the shift on the deep end lifeguard post. Whenever they blew for break... All right, break. Everyone get out. Adults get in, swim for 15 minutes, and everyone else gets out. So if it's a slow day, nobody's in the pool. And then Gregory would climb down off his lifeguard stand and make like he was moving to the next one, but he would get into the deep end, climb down in the ladder, and he would drop a log right then and there. And he would just get in and then get right back out, move to the next stand, and then the next lifeguard rotation would see big logs swimming there. Call it for the day, they disinfect the pool, and everyone's off work at about 5:15 hanging out. I think this was mostly on extremely hot days or weekends when there was like a house party or something and everyone wanted to get out and get ready early. But this move was executed so professionally where you would think, okay, what was he doing? He was just bare-assed in the pool pulling it down? No. He was a pro. He wouldn't even have to need to take his trunks off. He would kind of float a little bit, open up the inseam, and then just drop it right out the bottom, like a gangster.
I can't believe this is real. I can't believe that this is real. This is the funniest thing that you've told me.
Gregory...
It's up there.
Gregory was a bit of a crash out, but he was very fun and a good friend. And if we needed the pool closed, he would close it down. And also, it's not like you're cleaning up anyone else's; it's yours. So I'm sure he'd just be like, "I'll get it. I don't know who did this, but I'll get it." And he was a big dude too, so it was never it was never like a kid-sized dump in the pool. It was like a freaking Great Dane just opened up in the deep end, and he just threw it right over the fence. Pool shut down. Let's do some pH testing and get it all.
Wait. What do you mean he threw it over the fence? That's what I'm like. You told me this the other day.
Well,
you're just throwing logs. You're not putting the garbage
on the back side of the fence. There was a big amount of forested area. Like this pool was in the middle of the woods. Northern Virginia is just woodlands.
Insane.
And he would get in
the weirdest detail.
He would pick it up in the skimmer, I believe, and then walk it back over the fence.
Was this protocol?
And then her protocol. The manager was 17 years old. There was no real protocol.
There was no poop in the pool protocol?
I'm sure there was. But
no PPP, no poop in the pool protocol.
I'm sure there was some Tupperware or something that you would have to seal it, like nuclear waste, but they just said, F it. I'm just going to throw it right over the fence.
You think you go in like a plastic bag or something, and then in the trash... No, Joe, we're hucking it over the fence.
We're not getting the hazmats in there.
Did he ever just throw it into the fence?
I don't think so. I think that was one of the most crucial parts of the whole operation, so they had a clean throw every time.
All right, I have a couple of questions. Okay, one, what is this individual doing right now? Because he's either making well over 6 figures as like one of the smartest people in his industry, or he is working at a 7-Eleven. There is no in between, or an enterprise. Actually, that's a like a. What do you got?
It's closer to the latter. I think he's doing some freelance. I I don't want to give it away because I can't give away exactly what he's doing.
Is he doing well for himself?
No, he is not.
Oh,
he is not doing well for himself.
That's a shame.
How many times? Okay, the other question I have before we get to the other story that you told me. How many times did he do this? If you just guess.
I think he did it. I think he pulled off this operation 3 times, and then another friend of mine made it pull it off twice. I think one summer there were many days.
I thought this was going to be like 8.
No. I think but one summer this really took off, and there were like 5 shutdown days where we were like, just all right, let's go fishing, and then they said, all right, I'll close up real quick. What do you mean close up? You're just in the group chat, and he said, no, I'll close up and meet you, and then he would come down to the docks, and then boom, we're all fishing. He's like, oh yeah,
were you
closed.
ever there when he did it?
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm just not understanding is how does this guy go as long as he did and his buddy without getting caught? How does nobody go, hey, it's a little peculiar because poop ends up in the pool this often? Because that's a lot. That's a high volume of poop in the pool days during the summer. Suddenly, when he's working, every single time there's a dump in the pool.
I don't think they would do back-to-backs. I think there was some load management going on where you would have to space it out, and it couldn't be on a big day. I think they did it once where there was a lot of people at the pool, and parents started getting like pretty disgruntled, like, "Who did this? My kid didn't do this."
Keeps pooping in the pool.
But if it was a very slow, empty day where it's like, I don't know, you got a couple old ladies swimming laps, and maybe there's a family, and then our group of like 6. Yeah, shut it down, and then we could go do whatever we wanted to.
I'm just laughing at the thought of trying to pin this on like a 5-year-old, because we had this conversation, and you told me this, and I was again like I forget what exactly I said to you. I made a joke about pooping in the pool, and I had said like oh, there's really not any kids here. And I was talking about how, like, my public pool, there was always that one, there'd always be one kid who did it, and then you have to get out of the pool and all that crap. And then you told me the story. But all I can think about is your buddy, Gregory, like, trying to pin this on a 5-year-old, and it's just the biggest piece of shit in the pool possible.
I think it was as soon as it's in and floating, it's out. We have the proof, we have a sample, we get it out, and then we roll. And then, oh, sorry, everybody. Contamination. Do you want to swim around in the poo-poo water? Nope. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
This guy's a mastermind. This guy's a mastermind.
Nope.
I think we should hire him. Does he have any skills that would be useful for us?
You know what? Maybe
he could be our lampshade. We can or not our lampshade. There's not a lampshade on his head.
There's not enough room in this room for me, you, and him.
Is he that big?
He is another big gentleman.
Oh. They didn't play O-line anywhere or anything?
In high school, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm going to save this. Let's save the second story for next show, because that's going to be a fun one. I don't want to rush through it. Okay, so last week I pitched to you the idea that I had that for content, you should join a run club and we should record it, find out the results. You hated it. I think we got a little bit of feedback on it. Didn't go anywhere. Here's my new idea. We just moved in. We haven't really gone out in Hoboken yet. Mm-hmm. Gonna start doing that eventually. I think to take advantage of how much bigger you are going to be than everybody. Like, you're going to stand heads above everybody. You know that from the bars that you went to when you were in Virginia.
Yeah.
Most of the people are here probably even smaller than they were in Virginia. I think that we should use your back as billboard space. I think that we should, or your ass, either one of those, your back. We can either, if we find an advertiser that wants to, we can do a couple ads. We can plaster it across your back and then use that as a way to market a local business or something. And we could promise to be out on a number of occasions, just brand exposure. Promise to go to all the well-lit bars.
Sure.
Or we promote the show on your back.
So I'm the... This is one of the better ideas you've ever pitched me.
I'm surprised you like this. I think you're going to be offended.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, and I'm a big fan of the Mr. Peanut Mobile also. So if I could partake and be, kind of become one of those, that's fun for me.
A living version of.
I love the NASCAR cars with all the ads on them. And I've also considered getting I think I still may do this when I get my car re-registered. Uh-huh. Yeah, my car plate will be Hack City. That's what it's going to be. I'll be driving around with that on. But if I step out in a Hack City shirt also,
no, not Hack City shirt. It needs to be across your back.
What do you mean across my back?
Like, we need to take it needs to take up whatever we're advertising on you, it has to be on your back.
My like bare skinned
No,
back?
no,
Okay.
the back of the shirt.
Yeah, okay, so I
Okay.
said back of the shirt.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, back of the shirt, people are walking and they see 5 different ads just on my shirt.
Yeah, well, we could do Hack City and then presented by,
Okay.
and then put a couple sponsors.
So we should start going out and saying, hey, here's this idea we have.
Yes.
And okay, so I would have to get, I'll get a 3X t-shirt. That'll give give us plenty of room to work with.
We'll get one sweatshirt for when it's cold.
Oh yeah, that. So now I have a uniform when I'm going out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I also, on a more serious note, I do want to. I think you and I should get a couple hats.
That'll work. I like hats.
Because that one's a little bit easier. You're a frequenter of
Do you
wearing
want
hats.
ball cap? I don't want it fitted. A ball cap, snapback, mesh back. What do you think?
Well, because you have a plug for this stuff, right?
I have some people that can do screen printing and merchandise.
Okay.
Yes.
The idea that I had was get like a snapback, kind of like the one that you're wearing, or like one of these.
Yeah, sure.
I really like these ones.
That's a good look.
And then like a golf hat. I don't know. We can do that, and then maybe if enough people, we'll talk about that after off air. But
I like the shirt advertising angle. I really wish I didn't, but I'm kind of a freak show, so we might as well try to profit off it if we can.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a good idea. See, that's a good business pitch idea, Joe.
Look at this.
Me doing
The show's already getting better.
the run club, dying and throwing up on people that don't need to be thrown up on. Not a great idea. Maybe we do that.
That was a good idea.
Maybe a little further down. Oh, dude, did you see that video of the run club in New York City this week?
Yeah,
Where it looked like a marathon.
It's just a group of horny ass people. Just the horniest group of people.
Just a bunch of horny people in
They're
New
just-
York.
All right. The horniest people in New York City are just congregating and running in a straight line together. That's what that is.
The horniest people in New Jersey sit out by our pool in a Speedo and with big back tattoos.
Yeah, that has to be one of the biggest downsides of being able to see the pool. That guy in that Speedo had to have been one of that ruined my day.
I saw him again.
Again? He
yesterday.
keeps going out there in the Speedo?
Yesterday when I was walking around the building.
Why is it always a big dude? It's never a guy that's like a jack dude who's in really good shape.
I was walking around the pool with my parents, right? We were just
he was out there with you?
Well, no.
Oh.
We were just walking around. We come up off the roof. We're walking back down. And as they're leaving, I see Speedo Man laying on stomach side, on his phone or reading or something like that, tooting it up.
Who do we report him to?
I don't want to report anybody because I don't want to be reported for me just going down there in shorts and my body. That's reportable.
And completely blasting a bunch of water out of the pool and overflowing it.
A cannonball would drain the pool.
At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. Subscribe, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think after today's episode. We'll talk to you folks later.